So, it's BD. Today we are going to be doing the January 2023 question and answer session. First, I want to get something out of the way. I do not really read YouTube comments after 2 weeks after the video. So if you're one of the guys that are commenting on months old videos, you are better off going to r/GettingBigger and writing a post there, and then I will see it. Then, this video is kind of sponsored by Leviathan Supplements. Oh, fuck, I fucked it up. It's my own company. Leviathan Wellness at leviathansubs.com and Amazon. What I just showed you was Vigor, our stimulant-free nitric oxide boosting pre-workout. We formulated it to be the best bang for your buck, so you're going to get your money's worth with it. It's probably up your alley. Then I have a Patreon where I'm trying to write 1 to 2 posts a month. Having issues with that lately because of how busy I've been. To curate with posts on Reddit in an easy to read format. If you're having issues with Reddit, it might be worth your time there. Then, female physique for penis enlargement aids that are not needed but can help. I'm almost caught up on orders, so that's nice. Anyway, let's get into it. I'm going to be starting with the Patreon questions. Okay, so Peter N asked for any updates on BPC 157. No. So I just started dosing it again just because I'm an idiot, or more or less a psycho, and want to push the envelope a bit. From what I've seen, it can be a little hit or miss depending on the person. I think you're going to need a little bit of tissue breakdown beforehand to see the full benefits, and it is a healing peptide. But you know, it does boost collagen, it does boost angiogenic activity, or as Hink probably corrected me, arteriogenesis. Anyway, like with any peptides that are untested, I do not recommend using them unless you have a high risk tolerance. So BPC 157 is very interesting, but it's not technically legal. It's not technically illegal, but it's also risky, just plain and simple. So be very careful of what you're doing. Veloxis ask, any new compounds besides the Transdermal, Aminos, and PG-1, PGE-1 you've been messing around with any promising results? If I was messing around with it, I would have told you guys by now. I actually haven't been keeping up with PGE-1 because there's 2 things you can do for collagen production. You can speed it up and slow it down. The one avenue that is worth exploring is slowing it down to cause the tunica to degrade beyond original capacity and then expand more, stop taking the stuff, and then it will heal in this enlarged state over time. The second thing you can do, which is probably a lot safer in the long run, is continuously boost the amount of collagen you make. Not necessarily the fibrosis that some people are worried about, but healthy collagen production. Not necessarily overproduction for scar tissue, but just good fashion production. More accurately saying that it needs to be healed in an organized way, unlike scar tissue, which is not healed in an organized way. So if we can boost the organized healing, we can technically grow faster, do more PE, get the gains we want in a similar avenue that we already have been, just with a faster Wolverine-like response. So those 2 things were conflicting, the transdermal aminos and the PGE-1. So I stopped taking one for now, and then mainly focus on the transdermal aminos since it's much easier on my skin. Alright, that does it for Patreon. Alright, in no particular order. Groundbreaking Arm 748 asks, do you have any reasonable point to use a cock ring not too light or not too loose throughout the day, the Goldilocks if you will? For example, if you don't use the right one after my hanging sessions, my penis tends to be turtled and it stays retracted in my boxers. On the other hand, if I use one, my penis tends to turtle a bit less and it stays engorged during the day. Some people say it's dangerous and it can cause damage to the pelvic muscles. Also, letting the penis under your boxers during the whole day would interfere with much length gains. I don't really understand the last part of the question. Allday cock rings. I think you need to find a balance with it. Like everything else, there is benefits of staying in an engorged state for longer than after your session. However, obviously if you wear one that is too tight, you're going to run into issues, primarily nerve damage more than pelvic floor issues. The hard thing is to make sure you know you're wearing the right size. If you have any discoloration, you are probably wearing the wrong size. If it falls off, you're wearing the wrong size. Personally, I would only do about 40 to 60 minutes after a girth session. I don't really see the point after hanging. If you are turtling after hanging, that's a sign of overwork. For me, after my length sessions, I'm always super long for like the next couple hours, just because those tissues are fatigued rather than stressed. It's a minor difference, but it means the world. So that's the first thing I would recommend first, is figure out why you are contracted. Because really the Allday cock ring is a band-aid solution. It's a little different for girth work, but in my experience, I've never worn a cock ring after length work because it just doesn't really make sense to me. Cheese grated nipples ask, hey BD, could you address the differences between the way Hink in his videos on pumping thinks that high pressure pumping is necessary for growth versus 5 HG to 7 HG recommendation that I typically use? I believe he uses arterial sclerosis to show that pressure wouldn't toughen the tuca. Thank you, from Sam. I prefer cheese grated nipples. Okay, first, we don't know what Hink really means by high pressure, because 4 HG is the natural point of an erection, so going above that's technically high. Therefore 5 to 7 HG is high pressure. But I asked Hink yesterday, and then he did a video response. I haven't watched it yet. I'm gonna watch it now. Telegram's waiting to download.
Hey guys, Hink here. Just wanted to quickly address one of these QA questions that came up and clarify. So when I say that you need higher pressures for pumping to see gains, it's because the natural physiologic erection is between 100 to 150 millimeters of mercury. Okay, you can look it up. And so that translates to somewhere between really about 5 to 6 inches of mercury. And so if you're pumping at 5 to 6 inches of mercury, that's not enough to stimulus to cause growth, in my opinion, because you're basically pumping at a physiologic level. So you need to get super physiologic. You need to get past that point to actually cause distension. And so that's why I think you need higher pressures, closer to something along the lines of like, somewhere between, I'd probably say 8 to 10 inches of mercury when you're pumping. And part number 2 is that something about how arterial sclerosis is an argument that I make for why you don't have tunica thickening. No, when you have like megalophalus, or just take an aortic aneurysm, for example. Your aorta, main vessel in the heart, it has a tunica intima. It has its own tunica, and over time, if exposed to high pressures, you can get a dilation, meaning an enlargement of the area because of that exposure to high pressures over time. And so if tunica thickening was really a sound idea, in my personal opinion, then you wouldn't have aortic aneurysms, you wouldn't have things like megalophalus occur, where you get these like chronic priapismal episodes that cause that dilation of the tunica also. So anyways, just my opinion, listen to BD, his explanation of it, but just want to clarify that. Check me out on YouTube, guys, please.
Basically, what it comes down to is the definition of high pressure between me and Hink. Personally, I say go to the point where you feel slight discomfort anymore. So that could be as low as 4 HG and as high as 10 HG. I really don't recommend going above 10 HG just because that's when it becomes more of a edema-a-thon, where you're just developing a bunch of subcutaneous edema rather than actually working the tissues. And then there's more room for nerve injury with that high of pressure. But in my opinion, me and Hink are almost on the same page. It just really comes down to what we consider high pressure. I think since he said it in the good old metric system, but he's saying between 4 to 5 HG, 120 to something like 135 millimeters HG would be the normal erection pressure, so we need to go above that, but we really don't know how much higher above that we need to get. That's why your body is going to tell you where it's going to feel stress with discomfort. So slight discomfort is really what we're going for. As for his comments on arterial sclerosis and about the tunica. Me and Hink approach this in two different ways. He is looking at what things exist in the body that would apply to the penis already. So that would be cardiac tissue and the components of the heart, because there's a lot of overlap there. I look at it more from what I understand, and that's physiotherapy, and then I'm looking at tendons, ligaments, and blood vessels in general and the healing response. A lot of the times we are going to come to the same conclusions, but looking at it from two different angles. Where we really disagree is the semantics. So, like, for example, he says arteriogenesis, I say angiogenesis. I do not know the difference. I am not the doctor. He is. So, once he corrects me on the specificity of what I'm saying, I usually stick with it. That's why I don't say damage anymore. That's why I say stimulus. So yeah, we're kind of on the same page. It's really just a semantic difference. And as for tunica malleability and stuff like that, Hink is basically a structured scientist. He is a real medical doctor. He needs the actual proof before he comes to his conclusions. Me, you can call me a biohacker, you can call me just a meathead online, but I jump to conclusions. Sometimes I'm right, sometimes I'm wrong. A lot of the times you don't see when I'm wrong, so keep that in mind. I do vet what I say before I do it, or bring it to you guys. All right, another question about the differences in me and Hink. Head addendum, don't know if I said it right, but are you currently using any form of PDE5 inhibitors? So that would be Viagra and Cialis. I know Doc Hink is a fan of Cialis, but I do not remember reading about myself taking it. So I don't see the problem with really taking it. Personally, I don't take it, but I'm also on a crap ton of other stuff. And one more supplement I would tend to forget, especially orals. My only real hang up with the recommendation of PDE5 inhibitors is that you can get a mental dependence on it. And let's say your prescription runs out and you're about to bang a 10 out of 10, you're gonna have that real bad performance anxiety because you don't have your Cialis, your blue pill, whatever. So before you mess with literally any medication that is not really prescribed, like you can get Cialis really fucking easy without a prescription. You need to conquer your mind first. And like any bodybuilder or peptide user or whatever really needs to understand this, is that if your mind isn't right and you use these supplements, anything in a crop, if you use any of these peptides or anabolics as a crutch to get you to feel better about yourself, when that stuff is gone, it's just only going to make your own feelings of self-worth lesser. So yeah, go ahead, use the PDE5 inhibitors if you want. Just remember, it can cause mental issues if you are not of sound mind before taking them. I know I'm kind of sounding dramatic. It's just, you got to keep yourself accountable, not use something to make yourself feel better about yourself. Anyway, oh yeah, that's probably real big coming from me, the guy that's been on anabolics for 2.5 years, taking something to feel better about his own appearance, but learn from my mistakes, guys. Outrageous Length 639 asks, do you have any tips on how to avoid nut base pain from the extender, and do you think the pressure from an extender could cause serious injury? Pressure around the base, that is. Let's see. Depends where you are feeling this pressure if it's going to cause injury. I have seen people rip their periscrotal webbing, the Turkeyneck, because they're pulling it so damn tight that it causes it to fray. But other than just rips of skin, it's not really going to cause issues. The only time it can really cause issues, in my experience, is when you're pointing it straight up. So that means you're pointing up to the belly button, using a lot of high pressures. That is a weird ass stretch on your pelvic floor, and that can cause pelvic floor dysfunction in my experience. So I'm not saying you can't wear it that way. What I'm saying is that you can you can really crank up the pressure that way. So you need to be careful. When I do wear an extender, I usually just wear it straight out or down my leg. And that way it keeps more of the pressure on the shaft than, I guess, the internal bulb. But anyway, for base pain, like it's digging into your pubes, literally just put some cloth under it and that will help a lot. You can also try to find some gel pads and cut a hole that matches the extender, put that on first and then put the extender on top of it. I've had to do that a couple of times, especially when I haven't shaved in a couple months. So it would just be pulling hairs as it's pulling my dick out. So that's usually the two first things to fix it. The turkey neck thing will eventually fix itself. So just keep at it. Throwaway primary asks, for a beginner who wants to do both length and girth, is it better to do tunica malleability lengths in the shower, wait a couple hours, and then do girth manuals, or tunica malleability length manuals, and then immediately following with girth manuals? First and foremost, beginners should really be just focusing on erection quality because that's going to be your fastest gains. Then you want to be focusing on the ligaments. When I say ligaments, the suspensory ligaments, what connects your penis to your pelvis. And that's going to have the quickest changes in appearance because your dick's going to look bigger, more vascular because it's be able to hold more blood. And then it won't be riding as close to the hip. Most guys we can see anywhere from 1/4 inch to literally 3/4 of an inch in 3 to 4 months, depending on how lucky they are. Most people are going to be about 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch though. Now, if it wasn't a beginner and we're talking about tunica malleability, followed by length, followed by girth, would waiting an hour or a couple hours really affect anything? No. If anything, it would mitigate the chance for injury because let's say you're using a vacuum hanger for your length work. Your skin's going to be pretty sensitive. Therefore, it's going to be easy to make a blister in a pump, for example. So that's one reason why you might want to wait. Second of all, it's another opportunity for stretch. So typically I fit what I can into my schedule. And what I've been doing lately is I've been doing either some kind of pump right after I get home from the gym, or I sit down and immediately hang with heat. And then I do vice versa in the evening. So if I pumped in the morning, I hang at night, and then if I hung at night, I will pump at night. Makes sense? From my experience, I feel like I get a better workout each session just because I'm able to focus a little better, and there's less fatigue, and you're already, I'm not sure exactly why I think it's better this way. On paper, it really shouldn't make that much of a difference, but I think it has something to do with the tissues is another opportunity for stretch later on in the day. So it will give you more chances to cause the collagen failures to cause the changes in the tunica. Yeah, it really shouldn't matter all that much. That was probably the most poorly I've ever answered a question, so congratulations, you kind of stumped me, I guess. Precision99 asked about my thoughts on NAC, which is N-acetylcysteine. I cannot pronounce anything chemically related, and I am sorry. Hink just made a video on it. I was wondering if this is something you currently take or plan to take. I do not take NAC, but apparently I take L-cysteine. I had to check. This is a complete amino acid supplement that I have made into a transdermal balm for my amino acids experiment. The main difference between NAC and L-cysteine is the carrier agent, if you will. NAC makes it through the digestive tract better. L-cysteine I think it's hydrochloride. Again, could be dead wrong. That could be a poison. But L-cysteine HCI is what I've been taking. And L-cysteine is what you're really going for, that specific amino acid. So it really just depends on how you can get into your system the most efficiently. Hink told me in our Telegram conversation that you would have to take a lot more L-cysteine HCI than NAC to have the same effect because the NAC is more protective against the digestive tract, it seems, or at least it makes it more easily digested. However, since I've been doing this with a transdermal, I may be completely working around that. From the results of my transdermal, I get immediate stretchiness, and then I get immediate fat softy, essentially. So, again, I am literally taking 20 amino acids, and it could honestly just be a placebo effect at the same time, but I like what I'm seeing. That's all I'm saying. So yes, I am technically taking cysteine already, but that was not the original intent. I was looking for a way to increase all the building blocks of collagen more so than just getting the benefits of each of these amino acids individually. However, sometimes a big lunkhead can be right in certain things. I'm not saying I'm right yet, but again, I'm taking it by accident, I guess. All right, Pico08 asks, is this normal for your bone press erect length to be bigger than your bone press stretch flaccid length? And how far your BPEL should usually stretch and extend? The tension of my extender is 4.5 kilograms or about 10 pounds. That's a lot of tension, first of all. Second of all, it is completely normal for your bone press erect length to be bigger than your bone press stretched length because sure, you might have a longer shaft when it's completely stretched out, but your head's going to be roughly the same size because, you know, it's not inflated. And then when you do inflate the glands, it could be much greater than that difference between bone pressed shaft only length versus stretched length. You know, you add the two differences. Anyway, so for a while I do have this issue currently where my erect length is longer than my stretched length because I have a huge head. I feel like a lot of this is just bragging at this point. Anyway, as I've been stating a lot recently, your goal stretch length after a session needs to be 104 to 106% longer than what it was to start. So your bone press stretch flaccid length is say 8.25. We're just using me. You want your bone press stretch flaccid to be around 8.75 after your session, not necessarily during. During it should be probably slightly longer because it's already under tension. But you should be able to easily reach a very similar elongated length with a slight pull because that means you've reached the deformation needed to see changes in the tunica. Wonderful Store 8685 asks, what is your opinion? What would be a good length focus routine for an advanced PE or more than 3 years who only has a pump available and hands for manuals? Second, is that better to manually stretch before, right after my pumping session? I only have 2.5 hours for my day available to dedicate to PE. Is this amount of time enough for gains? I've been struggling with games. 3 years with manuals and pumping. Let's see. I hate to break it to you, dude, but just get a cheap hanger. I'm telling you now, it might be hard depending on your country, and I get it, but that's gonna make your life significantly easier. But let's see. You are going to want the brunt of your time to be manuals. To maximize the stretch effect, you don't want to be taking a lot of just long sets from what I've been seeing. For my hanging stuff, I've been doing 5-minute sets. For manuals, you probably don't want to do more than a minute to 2 minutes. Most of the research showed that 45 seconds is the sweet spot for tissue elongation compared to breakdown. So, and then the more often you do this reset period of the load, the more opportunities you have for collagen failure, and that's what's going to cause the change in tunica formation size in general. So, man, my arms are just tired thinking about what you're going to have to do. But I would do an hour of manual stretching, 1 minute on, 10 seconds off. It doesn't even need to be 10 seconds. It's gonna be shorter than that. The most important thing is coming back to the normal state. So you literally hold for a minute, release for a second, hold for a minute, release for a second, repeat till your arms fall off. And then pumping wise, you want to that's where it gets difficult because you're already pretty high on the overall work period. You would only really need about 20 minutes of pumping to maximize the stretch. What we're really focusing on is breaking up the longitudinal bands of the tunica, the up and down, more than anything else for length. So, and obviously if you haven't done ligament gains or ligament work, focus on your ligaments. It's going to be much easier. But yeah, get a hanger if you can. Hell, even get an extender if you can, just because it's going to be such a pain in the ass to do that for more than whatever. Let's see. Le Baguette Magic asks, what are my goals for 2023 PE and generally? Well, you see, I did write them down, and then I had a bit of a mental breakdown, being honest. And I've come to realize that a lot of my own like issues when it comes to like, it's hard to explain. My own issues with pushing myself to be elite in everything, whether it be physical, penis size, sexual, whatever, success monetarily, comes from the fact that I essentially hate myself. So step one was to figure out why I hate myself, and that just comes back to a few things. One, overly demanding parents. So I always had to be good, like good in school, not necessarily good in sports, but I had to play a sport even if I didn't want to. And then I had to perform. I always had to be tip-top shape. And then with my high school basketball coach, I did literally everything I could to get his attention. But since I didn't play the politics game that well, and I was the socially awkward kid to begin with, I didn't really get the time of day. So I had to put in so much work just to get the attention from him. So essentially, I've trained myself since like 8 or 9 that if I was not elite or noteworthy at everything, that I'm not worth it. So, and then that's why I've been trying to figure out why I'm so obsessed with penis enlargement. And I think it really starts there, is that I needed to be elite with everything just to get a damn attention. So if my penis wasn't gigantic, why would a girl give me the time of day? But yeah, that's getting a little too sentimental. So anyway, my first goals was to figure out why I hated myself. Done that. Now I'm just trying to figure out how the fuck I can be happy. That's easier said than done, but I think I've made a lot of improvements lately with that. So I don't really have any physical goals. Sure, I want to be able to do this stuff full time by the end of the year. What I'm focusing on is enjoying the moment more than rushing to the next goal, because I've basically never thought about what I've accomplished so far in my life. Yeah, sure, it's not as glamorous as it could be, but I've accomplished a lot in 26 years, from graduating college to buying a house relatively young, to getting married, to having a relatively successful business, to having a well-paying job. So I need to stop and smell the roses. I know it sounds like I'm bragging, but really I'm just trying to state the facts of my life. I have it much better than most, and I should be grateful for it, and that's something I need to work on. Second, physical goals. Penis size, I really don't have one, because let's face it, I'm pretty large to begin with. There is really no point for me to get any larger. Wherever the wind takes me is what I'm going with. It'd be nice to gain another inch in length this year. That's my main focus. But wife gets final say. She has to actually deal with the end product. So, and then physique wise, let's see. I mean, I've come a long way in the past year. The problem is that I don't know when to stop with this, because like I said before, I have an issue with being elite. I look better than 90% of men if we're talking about just an average Joe off the street, not necessarily other fitness YouTubers. But like, if you compare me to a normal American, I'm in tip-top shape. So yeah, I have my trouble areas, mainly the gut. But I'm at the point where if I continue this stuff, I'm bordering the unhealthiness of bodybuilding. Like, I'm already doing unhealthy stuff. I take anabolics, I take peptides. So I'm doing risky stuff, and I don't know how much more I can take without really seeing the risk associated with it long term. So that's the balance that I'm trying to figure out. So yeah, real goals are figuring out how the fuck to be happy with just being me, which is really weird because I've never been happy being me. And then just coming to terms with everything around me and everything that is actually in my control. And this is something I do want to talk about more, is because I feel like a lot of young men have this kind of pressure on them to be elite. Oh, you need a six-pack to get a girlfriend. I hope you can't hear my dogs bickering in the background. You need to have $100,000. You need to have 31 cars. You know, like whatever shit Andrew Tate would say to make you feel like you're worth it. But the moral of the story is you're the one that really determines your own self-worth. And now I'm probably rambling, but again, this is something I want to dive more into because I feel like a lot of men get led astray easily when it comes to this stuff because they have really no one to talk to. See, rambling. I'm sorry. Moving on. Okay. DMA ask, high EQ versus consistent morning wood being a potential prerequisite for growth. And then DSMO, iodine, and PABA as potential solutions for hourglassing the plaque buildup, early Peyronie's, which may contribute to increased erection quality and assist in tunica malleability. That is an old thread on Thunder's Place. Not sure if you already did a video on shockwave therapy and the Phoenix device at home. I've researched it a ton, but I'm not convinced. Okay, first, I used to think you need to have slight drops in EQ and then it'll build up over time. Lately, that has flipped on its head. I think your EQ should constantly be improving. If not, it should be constantly high. If it's not constantly high, that means you need to either get your ass on the treadmill or you need to cut the PE down a bit, because we are trying to make our tissues as healthy as possible to make the environment as great as possible for potential gains. Yes, you need, I would not say morning wood is a prerequisite, because if you have sex late at night, you're not going to wake up with morning wood. But high erection quality in general is going to be the most important thing for seeing if you need to do recovery. Second, I don't even remember what PABA is, but I'm assuming it treats fibrosis. Well, apparently L-cysteine does that as well and is much more effective with it. So I would strongly consider NAC L-cysteine before you do that. This is based off of Hink's recommendations. And man, don't we need to start selling NAC, Hink. Hashtag Leviathan sups. Let's see. On your point about tunica malleability, I think that on its own is going to have a greater effect on reducing scarification than applying iodine, DSMO, and PABA, just because you're actively working it. Sure, you're softening it with these agents. Nothing's going to beat active physiotherapy when it comes to fixing soft tissues. That's why they don't give you BPC 157 when you tear your meniscus. It's a whole bunch of physiotherapy to make sure it's strong and robust. Honestly, just say do tunica malleability. The only time I ever had scarred tissue and a slight hourglass from whatever, I think it was genetic more than anything, I was able to reverse it with tunica malleability with my fulcrum stretches and semi-erect bends. As for the Phoenix device, I think it's only good for very specific internal plaque buildup. So that means if you have high blood pressure and high cholesterol, that is the only time it's really going to be useful to break up the arterial plaque in your penis. It is not going to affect weird shapes that your tunica has made over the years through aging or bad PE practices, we'll call it. I think it is overrated. I think a massage gun will do the exact same thing, but I'm not the medical professional here. So to begin PE, ask, is Angion method 2 okay to use on off days or before girth work, or should I just use it only for decon? Angion. I don't even remember which one Angion 2 is. I don't see the point of Angion ever. And I don't want to say shots fired, but to me, let's think about this. What does Angion do? Angion causes fast blood flow through the penis. And that's it. Therefore, it causes your arteries to dilate. You know what else causes your arteries to dilate? Getting an erection for a prolonged time. So if you edge for 40 minutes, it'll have the same effect as Angion. Granted, if you have horrific EQ, it might be better just because it's pushing more blood than it can already allow. But in my opinion, edging is going to have a slightly better effect than Angion long term because one, you learn orgasm control, and most of you guys probably are more worried about that than your actual size. Second, there's no real second. I just think edging's better. And then if you add cardio on top of it, so if you do edging and cardio, you're going to be much better at sex than if you do just Angion. So I don't really see a point for it in modern PE. Don't at me, but I guess I kind of brought it on myself at this point. It's a very niche case, but I would actually recommend Angion. Otherwise, I think 3 sets of 5 minutes of pumping would have a better effect on erection quality along with cardio and edging than Angion on its own. So yeah, that's what I'm thinking. You don't really need Angion ever. Final question on another level. Will hanging increase turkey neck, and is turkey neck only curable through surgery? And is someone who is uncircumcised, is foreskin restoration a means to mitigate turkey neck counterproductive? Well, first, hanging can increase turkey neck, but it really depends on what device you use. Ben over at Male Hanger has shown that he just changed how he attached his hanger on himself and he grew a shit ton of foreskin. So yeah, it really depends how you use the device. Vacuum hanging, you're going to develop a turkey neck unless you take the proper steps to mitigate it. So applying pressure around the base and then wearing a ball stretcher to help keep that skin taut while it's being stretched from one direction. It is not only curable through surgery, however, as that turkey neck starts coming down through foreskin restoration, you're just gonna have a huge ass ball sack and eventually low hangers if you're lucky. So once the skin's there, it's gonna be very hard to remove, but you can kind of change where it's placed. As for someone who is uncircumcised, foreskin restoration as a means to mitigate turkey neck counterproductive? No, but it needs to be very specific kind of foreskin restoration. So basically, you only want to be using the foreclip. Maybe I have it. Yes, I do. The foreclip. It's, again, stupid expensive for such a tiny ass device. This is like $70 United States. But all you do is clip the bottom, pull the turkey neck back, pull your skin forward, and then you'll grow the skin in that area between the two clamps. I need to get really better at using this for my own experience because I literally have like a 5-inch turkey neck at this point. But I know it works. I've seen minor results with it in the minor time that I have used it. So that would be your best bet for fixing and preventing turkey neck. I think that covers it. What do you know? Oh yeah, since a lot of you guys talk about my nasaliness before I go, I have started wearing nasal strips before bed to open up my airways, and I've been waking up more refreshed. And then my wife has pointed out after COVID, I'm more breathy, as you can see. So I need to figure that out. Someone said it might be, crap, what's it called? When your nose is crooked and it blocks one of your nasal passages. So I'm gonna go to a rhinologist eventually. Then, as for the COVID stuff, I think it's just gonna take some time for my lungs and throat to get healthy again. So, but I am probably in the best physical shape from all the cardio I've been doing lately to, try to get the last 5 to 10 pounds off of me. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed. Leviathan supplements, Amazon, and leviathansups.com. I keep saying the name wrong, but it's too late now. Peak male physique for penis enlargement aids that are not needed that can help. Patreon for potentially coaching spots. I doubt it. But to support me and get curated content that way. And I'm probably going to start posting my scripts there just so you guys have more stuff to chew on and see my own mental thought process. Okay, talk to you later. This is B signing off.